my session. Myself, Engineer Hampika. Today, here I would like to discuss about a data collection. Let me discuss firstly just about the data collection. Then later I'll discuss about the how important the data collection in a research. Fine. Data collection is a term which is used to describe a process of a prepared and collecting data. The name itself, the data collection means we are collecting a data. And in which manner again? The systematic gathering of data for a particular purpose from various sources that has been systematically observed, recorded and organized. Well, on the collection of data also, these factors are very important. What was the purpose of the collecting and what was the sources we are supposed to collect and where we use it to be implement, in which manner, is it in an organized manner or not. Then data are basic inputs to any decision making process in business or whatever the decision making implemented to be. For example, to do some work, we use it to inquire first and then we use it to analysis and we use it to collect different categories of information with different sources. Then we will take a decision. It is nothing but the process of a data collection. Well, what was the purpose then? We are collecting data. As I previously told you, to collect data, what is the purpose? Generally, the data collection is the purposefully we are doing to obtain information or to keep on a record or to make decisions about important issues or to pass information on to others. The one of the best example is this social media. The social media is a platform. It is a collecting the data. They are using it like for multiple purpose, either in a survey manner or by your interests or by your filling of bios. We use it to analysis based on the data collection. That was the one platform for the collecting the data, human data. Just like that, based on that, they use it to take decisions. If you observe clearly, when you go through detailed searching of something, then later automatically those factors use it to reflect you the advertisement manner or whatever the relevant data it will reflect. That was the beauty of the data collection, which gives a reflection of what you really need, and they are catching it as a advantage of pulse of the customer for a business people. Then what are the types of data? Generally, there are two types. One is a primary data, the other one is a secondary data. Already I discussed in another video about this in a detailed manner. Here I would like to give a very brief description. The primary data. Whereas the primary data, the name itself, the first and foremost data what we are collecting is nothing but a primary data. Then secondary data. The secondary data is a other data which are collecting for a multiple sources. Whereas to discuss about a primary data, the data which are collected from the field under the control and the supervision of an investigator. Primary data means original data that has been collected specially for the purpose in mind. Whereas these type of data are generally fresh and collected for the first time. So it is useful for the current studies as well for the future studies. Whereas few questionnaires, because of the questionnaires they used to collect data which was the first time based on the survey. Whereas this how the primary research happened again. This primary research is dividing into two types. One is a quantitative data and other one is a qualitative data. Whereas the quantitative data which always comes from the surveys which conducted by a personal interview or through mails like continue mail reviewing or in-house surveys or administrated by a self-administrated or a telephone or a fax. And also for sometimes we go with a different experimental manner, and a mechanical observation, then a simulation. Because this surveys always gives and measuring the quantity of a data, and these are the things which always gives the quantitative data measurement. Whereas a qualitative data, this includes like we go with a focus groups, or we go with the individual depth of a news, or human observation, or multiple case studies. This always comes with a quality which we are going in detail of every factor in a different perspectives. Then we are deciding the decision of the decision making based on this data. That's the thing. Here we go with a focus groups, individual depth interviews, and human observation and a case studies. Whereas here we are measuring the quantity. So that was the thing. Here we are going with the survey point of view. Whereas the quantitative is always based on the numbers. For example, the 56% of 18 years old drinks like alcohol at least 4 times in a week. It doesn't tell you why, when, and how. So that was the thing. The qualitative is more detailed, tell us why, when, and how. Whereas quantitative, it is giving just a number. Here the statistics are always given by a quantitative, but the details are always given by a qualitative. So that's the thing. Here the quantity is measuring. Here the quality based on what? Based on the details of WH words, like why, what, how, and where. Based on this, the quality is going to be measured. Whereas quantitative research is in a form of a numerical and a statistical reliable, the projectable to a broader population. There are few sampling methods. One is the random sample, and the other one is the equal chance. The random sample is nothing but the equal chance of anyone being picked may select those not in the target group. Whereas indiscriminate sample sizes may need be large to be representative, can be very expensive. And what was the stratified or a segmented random sampling? Samples on the basis of a representative strategy or a segment, still random but more focused. And it may give more relevant information, it may be more cost effective. Whereas quota sampling, which is like again by segment, not randomly selected, and it is specific number on each segment are interviewed, like etc. Whereas may not be fully representative. It is like little cost budget friendly, which is a cheaper method. And qualitative research is always in-depth, insight generating, and non-numerical and directional. And what are the common techniques? One is a personal interviews, the other one is a focusal groups and mini groups based on the survey. And what are the things we are going for a research methods? Whereas what is the interlink between these qualitative research methods and the data collection again comes into picture. Our topic itself, it is a data collection. After collecting the data collection itself divided into two. One is a primary, the other one is a secondary data. And there are types of data called quantitative and a qualitative data. Whereas based on this data collection only, we are observing all these methods and we are deciding the methods to be chosen. Observation method through personal or observation, whereas the personal interview through questionnaire they are measuring, whereas the telephonic interview through telecall they use it to extract the questionnaires and they produce the call outcomes and based on the call timings. And the mail survey through mail and through questionnaire again. Here also they conduct few surveys. and what was the really purpose of data collection, and how much is useful about this primary data. What is the advantages? Coming into advantages, the targeted issues are addressed and the data interpretation is much better. Efficient spending for information and decency of data and the priority issues, addresses specific research issues and the greater control. All these are the benefits of a primary data. Generally, when the primary data is collected, it is a fresh and which is a first and foremost data collected relevantly by observing the data, which gives to decide the target issued. What was the addressing of a target of a researcher, and what is the data interpretation becomes better in which manner. Based on this data collection, it becomes better data interpretation, and it is more efficient on spending for the information, and it was the priority issues, whereas the addresses specific research issues, the greater control. All these are the benefits, whereas coming to few limitations. For anything, there are a few benefits and there are a few limitations for them. Whereas the high cost, it is because the primary data is always first and foremost step for a person, which gives which have to keep more effort and more budget on it to get relevant data. So that was little high cost, and it is a time consuming again, and it is inaccurate feedbacks, because as it is a first and foremost, generally the feedback supposed to be come in a very low feedback, because it can't be proven or it can't be scrutinized, and more number of resources is required, because it is the first time we need a more number of resources, not yet decided that this is the one data already given the proof of a problem statement or what are the objectives relevant or not. So that's the thing. Again, the more number of resources is required. Whereas secondary data, this data is always gathered and recorded by someone else prior and for a purpose other than a current project. Whereas secondary data that has been collected for the another purpose, it involves less cost, time and effort, and the secondary data that being reused usually in a different context. For example, a book published book already written by some author, which already they collected a primary data and they did a gathered and they published it, and we are taking it as a secondary data collection, because those all are the references we are searching, and we use it to be follow those references, and we used to be give some other new or novel idea or some innovative thinking. So that was the thing. The secondary data is always to be recorded in the form of a textbooks or e-books or some other videos. Nowadays, electronic media education became very popular. So all these are in a form of e-videos. So for the secondary data, we need external sources. External sources of secondary data are usually for financial applications like journals or books or magazines or newspapers or few libraries. All the nowadays the internet became, it was like a vast source became to the any reader or a researcher. But again here the target is to be picked, and which is relevant is more valid. So what were the limitations and advantages for the secondary data again? Whereas this is easy access because it is already to be recorded and it is like available. So that's the thing, it is like a budget friendly from the based on the requirement, every budget it is available. So it is a low cost, and which is a more clarification of a research question, and it may answer research question for sometimes, it may raise a question from sometimes based on the reader's perspective, because it is already recorded. Just we are going in detail through the survey of the recorded data. That's what it is like easy access. At the same time, it may clarifies the question of the reader or a researcher, or it may gives the solution for a researcher what they are searching to be. What was the limitations then? the quality of research, because it is already to be recorded by some other prior. Generally, it was already proven fact. What was the thing you are extending? Generally, the novelty became dissolves and not specific to researchers' need for sometimes. Then incomplete information, few recorded data, it doesn't have like what really the readers to be searching point of view. Then it was little incomplete, and it is not again timely based on the researchers requirement time. It may available or may not be available. So that was the other limitation. And this is a flow, data collection flow. Thank you so much for your patience listening. On later sessions, we'll discuss in detail about what was the other research requirements for a researcher.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.